Every single pro uses automation in their mixes, and it's because automation can take a flat, boring, lifeless mix and turn it into something way more special. Today we're gonna cover every single detail of automation so you can set your mixes on fire. Let's go. So first, what is automation? Automation is setting up any parameter of anything within your mix, so that way it automatically changes throughout the song. Now, the way automation is most commonly used is changing volume throughout the mix, so the vocals or the drums get louder and quieter throughout the mix. Effects, there's a different amount of reverb on the vocal in the verse as there is in the chorus. Panning, so things change position in the stereo field throughout the song. And even more advanced techniques like changing the EQ or compression of something throughout the song. And this is something that I'm really excited to show you guys. So today we're gonna go over when I use automation, what do I use automation on, how do I actually use automation, and then we'll get into a few more advanced techniques. Now, I think the type of music that you work on will largely dictate how much automation that you use. The more consistent and the more flat a song is from beginning to end, probably the more automation it actually needs. So if it's like an indie band or a jazz band especially, where it's a band in a room and the band is getting louder and quieter throughout the song, that is gonna need much less automation in the mix than something like a hard rock or a metal band, where it's just a typical hard rock song, the drums are slamming the whole way through. That's gonna need a lot more automation than the jazz band in a room. And even more so if you're working on a metal song and it's just as hard as they can go from beginning to end of the song with no breaks, no down sections. That's really gonna need a lot of automation to breathe life into that song. Electronic music with the exact same 808 and snare sound from beginning to end of the song. This is the least dynamic situation, which means it needs the most automation. So the less dynamic the song or the music actually is, probably the more automation it's gonna need in the mix. And the more dynamic a song or a band is, the less automation it's probably gonna need in the mix. Now, that's why it's so important to build dynamics into your productions, but that is a topic for a different video. Now, when I'm mixing a song and also when I'm producing a song, I look at every single song as a series of steps. I actually call this the stair step effect. Now, I try to make every section of the song a different step. Now, this can be in any way that you'd like it to be. It can be in volume, it can be in intensity, it can be in width, it can be in height, the low frequency things versus high frequency things, or if you're producing all of the above, try to incorporate as many of these things as I possibly can. So every section of the song needs to either step up or step down. And the reason I do this is because nothing can be loud without something else being quiet. Nothing can be big without something else in the same song being small. Nothing can be wide without something else being narrow, and nothing can be close without something else being far away. Now, I do this in every single song that I work on, both in the production and in the mix. Now, before we jump into Pro Tools and I show you how to set up all of this automation, I just want to say that there are links down below for everything that I use, every piece of gear, tons of plugins, lots of things that I recommend. Those links go to Sweetwater. Sweetwater is sponsoring this video. If you use those links to purchase anything you ever need, not just the items below, it costs you nothing extra and it really helps this channel out, and I appreciate it very much. So anytime you need any piece of gear, jump on any one of my videos, click on any one of the links, buy anything you need, and it will help support this channel and help me keep making content just like this. Thank you very much, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video. So let's jump into Pro Tools and I'm gonna show you how to set up automation. So I've got a session pulled up here, and it is the session which I used to go over my last video, my Moog Subsequent 37. Go check that previous video out if you're into analog synthesizers. I'm blown away by it. Here is a piece of music that I used in that video that I composed. Whole big piece of music. This is just a down section of it, but go check that video out. And I also am filming a full breakdown of this that will be on the Patreon. There's a link down below for my Patreon. If you want in-depth mix tutorials, music business advice, Q&As every month, awesome merch, go check the Patreon out. Okay. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how to do volume automation, because that's probably the most common and the most widely used. Now, in most DAWs, this is going to work pretty much the same way. However, of course, this is Pro Tools. So over here, there's going to be some selection in your DAW of choice where you can change this to volume right here. And when you do that, you see this line, and this is the volume right now. And so you can see over here where the volume control is right here. And as I raise and as I lower this, it raises and lowers that line. Now, if I would like to raise and lower the volume of a particular section, I can just simply highlight that section and then raise the volume in that one particular section. Maybe I want this section to be quieter, and so I can just lower that section. And that is how you would change the volume automation. So now you can hear the differences between them. And so you would do that to suit your song and whatever it is that you're working on. So that is how you would do volume automation. Now let's jump over to panning while we're here. Any sort of other things that you would like to do, adjusting panning or mutes or anything like that, you would literally just change the view to whichever thing that you would like to adjust, and then you would highlight the section that you would like to adjust, and then change the level or the position or whatever. So that is the most common way to do automation. The next thing is automating plugins. So let's just go ahead and let's put an EQ on here. We're gonna go FabFilter Pro Q3, links down below. And let's just say that we want to do a low pass, for instance. So let's put in a low pass, and let's say that we want it to start way down, and we would like it to rise throughout the song. After you add whatever EQ points you want, we're gonna click this, and we're gonna add the particular band to automation. So in this particular instance, it's band 1, because it's the only one we've used. And here's all the different things that you can automate about EQ band number 1, which is crazy. In this particular instance, we wanna do band 1 frequency. So we're just gonna double click on that. You can see it adds over here. Click OK. And now when we go here, you can see that there's a new selection, FabFilter Pro Q3, band frequency. And we change that, we can see this is where the high pass filter is, or the low pass filter is currently. So in order to change that, let's say we want to go from there all the way up to the highest point at the end of the song. Now that's all you got to do. You just got to draw that curve in. Let's say we want to actually put a little bit of a curve into it so it sweeps harder towards the end, like that. Now, as this plays, it's going to follow this line with that band, and I'll show you that right now. Now you can change just about every parameter for every single plugin. So all you got to do is pick out whatever plugin, compressor, EQ, reverb, whatever, and then add this parameter to the automation, and then you can automate that parameter for everything. Get creative with this. There's no limit to how crazy you can get with the automation. Now the next thing that I automate all the time is like delay synthesizers or different effects sends. So let's say we're going to put a big delay on this. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create a stereo aux input. We're gonna name this delay. And we are going to set the input of this. We'll just use bus 5 and 6 because I haven't used that before. Then we're going to put on a delay here. Let's use Valhalla delay. Let's go to a dual delay. I'm just setting this up real quickly in real time so that way you guys can see how this works. And we're gonna go mix 100%. Now, in order to get this synthesizer over to that delay, what we wanna do is on the synthesizer track, we want to put a send to bus 5 and 6. Now there is our send right there. You can see it's turned all the way down. And if I play that, here's what it sounds like as I change the volume. Okay, so let's say that we want there to be more delay at the end than at the beginning. So you would literally just find the beginning point, kind of the same as the EQ. You would find your beginning point, I like that. And now you can go over here and you can do send 5 and 6, level, and then you would literally just do the exact same thing. And now we will have significantly more delay at the end than we do at the beginning, and you can watch this fader move throughout that. Now this would also be how you create delay throws. So if you want to delay a very specific part of the song, let's say these two notes right here, well then you would turn your delay send all the way down, and then you're just gonna grab those two notes, and we're going, oh, let's see here. There we go. And then we want to turn that all the way down. You would grab just those two notes, and you would turn the delay send up on just those two notes, and then we're gonna get just those two notes in the delay. That's not a very useful case, but that's how you would set that up. It's very common to do this in like certain words at the end of a line on the vocal, or anytime you would want anything with a delay on a very specific part, this is how you would do that. So now that you have a better understanding of how to set up automation and how to do it technically, let's talk about what I use automation on the most. Now, by a huge margin, the thing that I use the most automation on is vocals. I change the volume of the vocal throughout the entire song depending on how big or small the song is. And I do this so that way the perceived level of the vocal is exactly the same in relationship to the rest of the instruments, no matter how big or small the music behind the vocal is. The next thing that I do all the time on nearly every song is I change the amount of effects, reverbs and delays usually, on the vocal depending on the bigger or quieter parts of the song. A really sparse verse, the effects on the vocals are gonna be way more obvious during that sparse, quieter part of the song, as opposed to that super loud chorus when everything's hitting and lots of stuff going on. All of a sudden, those effects that I had set right for that verse now are getting lost in that chorus. And so I will very commonly boost those effects in the chorus or turn them down in the verse. Also, so maybe I want that verse to be more intimate. Maybe I want that vocal to be much closer and more intimate and dry in those verses. And maybe when that chorus hits, I want it to soar and be wide open. And so I have very little reverb and delay on the verse. And that vocal has a ton more delay on it, so it's just soaring and wide open with lots of space around that vocal in the chorus. Whatever fits your vibe the best, this is what I like to do with my vocals. Now, the other thing that I automate with my vocals halfway often is actually EQ and compression throughout the song. For instance, if you have a song in which the vocal is an octave down in the verse and goes an octave up in the chorus, well, sometimes people's voices need some different treatments depending on the register or the range that they're singing. Usually the louder someone sings and the higher they sing, the more nasally or harsh their voice gets. So sometimes, in order for a vocal to be perceived the same tonally throughout a song, I might need a little bit more top end or a little bit less low end or low mids in that verse where they're an octave down. And then when we get to the chorus, I might need a little bit more low end or a little bit less upper mids, so that way the clarity and the thickness and fullness of the voice sounds the same in both sections of the song when they're singing completely different registers. And so I will sometimes automate this so that way the EQ changes between the verse and the chorus. Now, I don't often use different tracks because I like the vocalist to sing from beginning to end of the song. That's a whole topic for a different video on how to get the best out of your singers. Now, the next thing that I'm automating in every single mix is my drum bus. I have done some talking about this in previous videos, but I do a parallel drum bus. So all my drum shells go to two auxes that are exactly the same. And on one of those auxes, it gets compression, and on the other one, it gets nothing most of the time. Now, that parallel drum bus that has nothing on it, that is getting ridden with volume throughout the entire mix. And it's usually for a couple reasons. One, I want the perceived volume or impact of the drums to change throughout the song. In the very biggest, loudest parts of the song, I want the drums to hit the hardest. And so while even the best drummers can build this into the track, sometimes it's not enough. And so I will nudge up the uncompressed drum bus in the loudest sections of the song, and I will turn down the uncompressed drum bus in the quietest sections of the song. And we're just talking a couple dB here, somewhere between 2 and 5 dB difference between the loudest and quietest parts of the song. And I find that this really helps maintain a consistent drum sound throughout the entire song. And the second reason why I do this is because of bus compression. So if I have my drums at a particular level, but there's not much else happening, a bass and an acoustic and a synthesizer in the verses, and then in the choruses, a whole bunch more instrumentation comes in, my bus compression clamps down harder in the chorus, which actually turns my drums down. And you can see this in the waveform after you've printed your mix. If you don't ride drum automation throughout your mix, in the chorus when everything hits, the drums actually get quieter because everything is triggering that bus compression, turning everything down slightly. So in order for your drums to actually be perceived as the same volume from beginning to end, when you're mixing with bus compression, you actually have to nudge those drums up in the loudest parts of the song, so that way after the bus compressor turns them down, they stay about the same volume. Now, in addition to vocals and the drum bus, I adjust everything else on an as-needed basis. Now, when I'm tracking my own productions, I'm commonly splitting up performances on different tracks. So the chorus guitars are on different tracks than the verse guitars, and vice versa. The drums and the bass guitar and the vocal are usually on the same track from beginning to end of the song, but a lot of the other instrumentation is split up on different tracks. But when someone sends me something to mix that isn't separated out this way, or if I'm doing a very organic style piece of music where the guitar solo is on the exact same track as the rhythm guitars because it was all done in a single pass, then this is where I really get into automation, and we go back to this stair step effect that I talked about earlier. What automation moves do I have to make in order to accomplish this stair step effect that I think is appropriate for the song that I'm working on? And the sky's the limit. Maybe I don't have to do very many automation moves. Maybe I have to do an absolute ton. Maybe every single instrument has volume automation throughout the song. Whatever it takes to accomplish the stair step effect that is appropriate for the song that I'm working on. I hope that helped you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. Don't forget links in the description down below for everything that I use, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.